I hope that everybody here had a lovely Christmas, whatever that looked like for you. We're in that strange time where nobody is quite sure what day of the week it is, and we've all probably eaten more food than we ought. It's also this time of year when many of us start to reflect on the year that's drawing to a close, the highs and the low points, the memories we'd like to treasure, and those that perhaps we'd rather forget. We might also be thinking about the things we might do differently next year. Plans to take up a new hobby, maybe lose weight, exercise a bit more, or book that holiday that you've been fancying. The list goes on and on. Now, does anybody know what this is? Maybe some of the young people over there, any ideas? Certainly anybody that drives a car should know what this is. Jonathan might know what this is because he's got one on his organ. If I turn around and I look in my mirror, I can see a rather large capybara enjoying the sermon over there. It is, of course, a rear view mirror. And it's what we have in our cars. And I Googled what a rear view mirror is. And according to Google, the purpose of a rear view mirror is to give drivers a clear rearward view of the road and traffic behind them. Crucial for situational awareness, safe lane changes, reversing, and detecting hazards without turning their head, thereby improving overall road safety. It provides a true image of what is behind. It's a very handy piece of equipment to have in the car. I'm sure you'll agree. And I think that perhaps it would be sometimes useful to have one to look back through time with, so that our memories of events are clear and not distorted. It struck me that Matthew's gospel, and certainly in these opening chapters, is also looking back and reflecting on the Old Testament story of Israel. He directs the reader to the realization that the scriptures of our old are actually pointing towards Jesus, and that his incarnation and subsequent life and death bring the story to its divinely intended conclusion. Now, in our reading today, we hear 3 such fulfillment prophecies. We're all aware that Egypt was historically a place of oppression for the people of Israel. It was the country from which God delivered them from slavery, and the place where Pharaoh ordered the slaughter of male Hebrew infants. And yet we learn in this passage that it's the very place that Joseph is told to flee to in order to keep Jesus safe from Herod's equally wicked plan. Now, in order to fulfill the prophecy in Hosea chapter 11, when Israel was a child, I loved him, and out of Egypt I called my son, Jesus first had to be in Egypt. And Matthew is reinterpreting the text in relation to Jesus, and he's directing the reader to draw comparisons between Jesus and Moses. Moses, like Jesus, was spared from slaughter. Moses, like Jesus, was called home when those seeking to kill him had died. The author is setting the scene by drawing parallels, and he is pointing us towards the new Exodus and liberation that would be fulfilled in and through Jesus. The next prophetic fulfillment in the slaughter of the infants in Bethlehem is from the book of Jeremiah, which is part of a much bigger passage where Israel was once again in exile, with much loss of life and children taken for slaves. But in that passage, God renewed the covenant to bring Israel home. Many authors suggest that Matthew is forecasting the deliverance that Jesus would bring in spite of the horror and unimaginable loss. Now, the third fulfillment is debated, as the phrase, "he will be called a Nazarene," is not in the Old Testament. But it is generally accepted that it doesn't necessarily mean that Jesus is of Nazareth. The word Nazir in Hebrew means branch, And in Isaiah, it says that a branch shall grow out of the root of Jesse. That is, a new king from the line of David. And that brings the reader right back to the opening verses of his gospel, where the family tree of Jesus is described. In these first 2 chapters of Matthew's gospel, the author is directing us to the past in order to look forward to the future. The ancient text is reinforcing the true identity of Jesus. Isn't it sad, though, that atrocities are repeated throughout time at the hands of powerful and ruthless leaders? While Herod's Jewish identity had been questioned, he was certainly of Jewish descent, and he would have been aware of the slaughter of those innocent children in Egypt. And yet, he demanded the same in order to secure his claim to the throne. Jesus himself was a homeless refugee with a price on his head before he could even walk or talk. We still see countless children losing their lives through war and crimes against humanity. A terrible reality, as one scholar put it, is that many people in the world are at the mercy of political tyrants or unpredictable forces of nature that determine where, when, how, and whether they will live. I don't know about you, but I sometimes purposefully don't watch the news because I can't bear to see all the crazy things that are happening in the world. But I realize that as Christians, we are called to be the light in the darkness that Richard spoke about on Christmas Eve. We can look back at what has been and determine to be different. We can reflect on our choices and dare to change our minds. We can make decisions which will positively impact the lives of others, and we can highlight injustice and inequality in our places of work and communities. I saw a meme on Instagram the other day. I think that's what you call them. I'm not sure. But it said, "Christmas is about believing what a woman said about her sex life. Christmas is about a family finding safety as refugees. Christmas is about a child in need receiving support from the wealthy. Christmas is about God identifying with the marginalized and not the powerful." And so, as we look back to the past, let us find a better way to navigate the future, together, with Christ at the center of all that we do. Amen.